It's so weird. They came right up to me. Oh, you are a pretty donkey. You kind of look like an alpaca. What's up, you guys? Chet-Guthrie, the Dream Poet here, coming to you all from Clinton, Tennessee. And, well, to be a little more specific in that, I am here at the Museum of the Appalachias. Yes, if you want to know about what Appalachian life was really like at the turn of the century, this is the place right here. This is a really, really cool museum. It has a lot of very strange and interesting facts that really you wouldn't believe to be or to exist. So today, guys, we're gonna get in there. We're gonna check out a few of these artifacts. So let's do it. Without further ado, anchor down. Well, that doesn't look much like an electric fence. Honestly, I'd say that looks like that's made out of wood. I'm not sure if you caught that, but well, I told that at least the donkeys were laughing. But dude, check this out. This looks like something. It kind of looks like some kind of like oil rig of some sort. I don't really see a plaque anywhere, so I don't really know a whole lot about it. In the comments, let me know. I think that's pretty cool. It's so weird. They came right up to me. Oh, you are a pretty donkey. You kind of look like an alpaca. Oh, they're so adorable. Oh, they are sweet though. Maybe they think I have food. Or maybe they just want pets. Oh, who's a good dog? Let's see how friendly these horses are. Maybe we can't get their attention. Horsey! Horsey! Come on, Horsey! Hello there, buddy. You're a pretty bird. Look at that. Oh. And he's walking away. But in all seriousness, let's get in here and let's take a look at a few of these artifacts. We just now got out here and we are already starting to see some very large artifacts. That is a huge, huge saw blade. If y'all don't remember, in a previous vlog, I went out to find 2 steam engines that were out in the Smokies. This is what those type of steam engines would power. A big, giant blade such as this. Okay, this is Tom Cassidy's house. From what I was reading, this gentleman right here, he was a bachelor. He never married. And he lived here from 1920 to 1989. His quote, "I've got that little cot in there, a chair, a stove for heat and cooking, a frying pan, a bean pot, an old dresser, my fiddle, and my pistol. What more does a man need?" If I'm not mistaken, I believe he was also a bit of a bluegrass player too. Talk about the precursor to the tiny house. And it looks like they have another little tiny house. This is the Gwen Sharp Playhouse. Now, this is the only surviving structure from when Tennessee, or I should say TVA for short, came through, bought up 42,000 acres, and then damned it. This is the only surviving structure that was moved in, well, 1998, I think it was. No, 2008. My apologies. And the lady at the time, who was 84, legally blind, she was the one who donated it. Alrighty, you guys. In the Appalachian Hall of Fame, this is, well, the place that I do believe are the artifacts that I'm looking for. Welcome to the Museum of Appalachian's Hall of Fame. And this is an old mural from the Civil War era. That is really pretty. that still exists to this day. You guys, this is the first artifact that I wanted to see. If local legend is true about this machine could have potentially changed the way of how energy, all forms of power, could have been shaped for future years to come. This is called Asia Jackson's perpetual motion machine. Asia Jackson, he kept this machine in a cave during the Civil War. Now, when the Civil War broke out, he really feared that the Union could get a hold of this piece of technology that could have changed the way how humanity viewed energy. But, as it happened, he took it apart. That way no one, only him, could figure it out. Now, after the Civil War ended and Asia died, his family tried putting it back together. Only thing is, they couldn't get it running again. Now, by local lore, this machine could run for days at a time without any sort of energy powering it. Okay, you guys, through here is another set of artifacts that we'll be talking about. The first one is this Indian stone head right here. You see, this was found not far from the courthouse in Sevier County, Tennessee, and well, it was found in the late 1970s, and they believe it was near a large Indian burial mound. So historians and archaeologists believe that this mysterious stone head is believed to, they believe it was used as an effigy, and it dates back about 600 years. They're telling maybe it was a part of the mysterious moon-eyed people or the Anikatani. And I really wanted to show you all this one too. This is the Great Indian Sunflower Pot. Just check out the beauty in that. That must be, I'm thinking about 100, 200 years old. Now, some of the things that are also here in this case, there is the Indian death mask that was used as a type, or that was made from a shell. As you all can see, I mean, they also have other various different types of shells that they traded with local white settlers. Just look at the size of that spear blade. Killed blade, deliberately broken. The ceremonial pieces according to order. That. I would not want to be at the end of that blade. Now, some of the things that the Cherokees were also known for, they were also known for making pipes. That's just an example of, or I shouldn't say not just the Cherokee, but other Native American tribes. And now these artifacts are very, very interesting. These are banner stones or addle weights. And how an addle works is early Native American hunting is they would fling a blade with another stick, and it would have enough force to stab wildlife or potentially another human in terms of like battle. But looks like they really don't know what that was used for either. And now this is really cool as well. You see these copper pendants right here. You see, back when the Native Americans, the Cherokee, would trade with the English and other Americans, they would take like just thrown away pieces of metal or copper pottery, and they would use these to, they'd use these copper pendants basically as forms of, sometimes they'd use them as arrowhead substitutes or even like noise makers. And here's another really cool thing that they have here at the museum. I feel like I've said that a lot already. I should really catch myself. But this right here is Dr. Andy Osborne's medicine house. Now, actually, maybe it could even be a replica, but that's the original medicine house. But anyway, people from around town, they would come and they would get, this is where he would take care of them, in this tiny little house. So you gotta think, these huge modern day hospitals, back then, they would use tiny little houses like this. Okay, now if you want to know a little more about a tiny piece of Dolly Parton history, this man right here, Cass Walker, he is the same man who discovered Dolly Parton. Now, he was also a radio host for about, I think it was about close to 30 or 40 years. But anyway, he met a young Dolly at a country store. Actually, there's where Dolly talks about that right there. This is, y'all gotta check this out. This is a very, very famous jaw fiddle, but the gentleman who owned it, his name was Raymond Fairchild, and this is just impressive. You can see, like, if you look hard enough, you can see like where a lot of notable names and bluegrass have signed it. If I'm not mistaken, I mean Ralph Stanley even signed it. But in this case right here, this talks about Raymond Fairchild, and he was an unforgettable individual. Apparently that's his first what he described as his first good banjo. Now, if you're from Tennessee, you all probably know about this pretty well-known piece of music history. It's called the Tennessee Waltz. And now, back when I was at the University of Tennessee, I did see an original print of this. It was a journalism project I worked on. Anyway, the gentleman's name was Red Stewart, and this is an original handwritten print from Rod Stewart. And here's just a few of his artifacts that they have here at the museum. This is an ironing board guitar. It clearly says, "Do not touch." But apparently it wasn't built by, it was played by the famous Bill Croxdale. It's like he did it for about 40 years in the 1930s. But singing an iron board guitar, that is a first in my book. Looks like this is the devil. No, in all seriousness, from about 1820 to about 1869, this was a legendary piece of folk art, which it still is. But the reason why they call it the devil is, well, of course, you have these two big giant tree. Well, this big giant tree. But what this is a burl. And the gentleman who made it, the only thing that he added was he carved in and he put these two eyes in here. And if you look in his mouth, the devil's mouth, that is donkey teeth. So, people from the mountains are strange. Dude, look at the size of this basket. Apparently this was made by Gertney Youngblood. That is a huge, huge basket. It looks like this lady had been doing it for years. Basket makers of the Appalachia. So I guess it wasn't just her. Now here is an interesting display to old Jim Smith, the caveman. Now throughout his time in the Appalachians, this man lived pretty much in a cave. I won't say his whole life, but that's the only known picture of him. But we have some artifacts. That's one of his shirts. Apparently that's his old hog trowel. I wonder what it would have been like to live in a cave. And right beside it in that display is, well, a display to Sergeant Alvin York. And if y'all don't know who Sergeant Alvin York is, he is probably one of America's most celebrated heroes. He You can look it up online, but he was a Medal of Honor recipient. And that is his hogbuster. When he returned from World War II, actually I think it was World War One, but a group of gentlemen from the Rotary Club he was at bought him 400 acres. And this is what he used to plow his land. This is morbidly cool. This is an old school death carriage. I won't say death carriage, but before they ever had hearses or anything like that, they would do funeral processions in these big horse-drawn carriages. For example, they do have, I think, anyway, that's just a few examples of the coffins that they would use, I think, for children. But, I mean, just look at the work in that. Do you realize, like, how many man-hours would have taken to carve in such intricate carvings? And here is another artifact that I really, really wanted to take a look at. This is a solid metal coffin. Yes, when people would come up to people, all they'd have to do is look at them from inside there. Or if they didn't want to see them, there was a covering, this thing right here, and they would cover people over just so they wouldn't have to see them. This is a death crown, or better known as an angel crown. Now, when people would be on their deathbed, well, most notably children, when the children would be dying or die, when they would look in their pillows, they would find these weird twisted up crowns. And anyway, here's kind of a little more of a explanation. This is the story of William H. Rule at the age of 80. And apparently the feathers are beautifully and mysteriously bound together. Well, resembles a crown. So apparently this was from William H. Rule and his deathbed. And here is a simple child's coffin. Looks like of course they didn't use it, but I find it interesting that they do have clothes in it. And this is an unused baby coffin that they decided not to go with. Maybe the child managed to live. That's the only thing that I can really think of. And one more thing I also wanted to take a look at. We're probably going to go outside here very soon. But this is Uncle Dr. Ira Carter in his buggy. Again, I like the showmanship in these type of old buggies and wagons. It makes you wonder of how transportation, what it was like way back when. Okay, now, all those artifacts was a tad overwhelming. I don't think I can hit the Museum of Appalachia in one video. We might have to come back here some other time, but let's take a walk and see what else they have here on the grounds. This is the Iron Wine Cabin. And the Iron Wine Cabin is believed to be the smallest house on the Department of Register of Historic Sites by the U.S. Department of Interior. And it got on the list back in 1978, I believe it was. It's like they obviously moved it down here. Looks like this kind of talks a little bit. It was built between 1790 and 1820. And this represents old, or I guess what life would have been like way back during the settlement times, before we had plumbing and electricity. Nowadays, I don't think anybody could really live without that, but if you're a naturalist, you could probably do that. So I guess our next building is going to be the display barn. But before that, let's check out these really small jail cells that date back to 1874. These jail cells are probably some of the smallest jail cells I have ever seen. You gotta think, the prisoners would have been transported here. Looks like they really didn't have a bathroom, so I guess they had like a chamber pot. At least that's my guess anyway. And I take it, this is probably what it was really like. Not much room to take prisoners somewhere, or I guess to take them to, I guess, more permanent, more stable grounds, I suppose. This hornet's nest, given by my cousin, Horny Rogers. He said there's a hornet's nest made by hornets on Horny's Hornet Farm of Sharps Chapel. Now that's amazing. Look at the kind of wood machinery that they would use to make just about like all the furniture and other things. Like, this is a gun shop. That's what it was. This is a rifle making machine. If you look there, that's where they would bore out the barrel, where they would twist all the metal to make said guns. And those are some very big cannonballs. Jim Arlington was 13. His grandfather was 75. The year was 1950. While they were hunting, Jim's grandfather couldn't get anything, and at the end of it, he hands his grandson his gun and says, "Here, I can't hunt anymore. It's yours." And this giant piece of artifact, or, well, giant piece of history, I should say, this is from the clock tower at Clinton Courthouse, apparently 6 miles away from the museum. If I could turn back time, if I could find... Yeah, I can't sing. We'll have to come back there another day. There is a lot of artifacts there. This is the fabulous H. Harrison Mays, his roadside, well, his roadside God signs. He, this is kind of, well, if you see the sign right there, he's basically, he's put signs in all 50 states, 82 nations, on the 7 seas, and the big rivers and Great Lakes. Now, how he would make these is he would pour concrete in with these big giant slabs right there. You can see a big giant cross. And throughout his life, he would make these. And this is probably one of the largest collections of, that's anywhere in the world. Now let's meet the fabulous Harrison H. Mays. Harrison H. Mays, he was a coal miner who waged a one-man crusade for God on the roadsides of America. And as I was saying, he had a big giant trough that he would use to make his big concrete crosses. Actually, if you want an idea of where all he went, there is a map right there. And this right here, this is the bike. I think that is the bike that he used on his way across America. And there was one that he was working on. And here's a big replica model of Mr. Mays' old house. If somebody put that on their head, which I know is impossible, they would probably be the biggest pothead that I would know of. But in all seriousness, this jug came from Gate City, Virginia, and it was a plant in Kingsport, Tennessee. What they would do is they would fill these type of jugs with acid before they replaced it with steel. That is a big jug, or pot, juggerpot, juggernaut. Here is the Mark Twain family cabin. Now, at one point, I know the museum did have the same small log cabin that Mark Twain was conceived in, but I don't think this is it. Maybe there will be a sign that could explain. So I'm guessing maybe this was the same cabin that Mark Twain's family had, perhaps. Ah, here's what it talks about. So I just got done reading that sign This was the same log cabin that Mark Twain was born in before he and his family moved out to Missouri. So, now, there's an old story that goes, the night that Mark Twain was born, otherwise known as Samuel Clemens, a shooting star, I think it was Halley's Comet, passed by, and some people say that could have been a reason, well, on a myth or mystical level, why Mark Twain was such a great storyteller. God darn it! I mean, I know this is a corn mill display, or an original corn mill, but look at the size of this log slab. That thing is bigger than me. I mean, look. I stand about 5'9". That thing stands about 6 feet. Back before all of the Smokies was logged, this was normal. So if you're driving through the Smokies and you see all these small trees, like, oh, those trees are so big. No. During the days of the Cherokee, this is what you would see. This is the childhood home of Daniel Boone. Okay, maybe not necessarily the Daniel Boone. This old log cabin was built in the 1800s, and it was used in the 20th Century Fox series of the adventures of the young Daniel Boone. This is where a lot of it was filmed, and it has been furnished with some of the finest artifacts from the 1800s. Well, that's not from the 1800s, but that's still really cool though. I knew that there was gonna be a lot of stuff in there, but I didn't think it would be to the point of me realizing it would take more than probably 2 videos if I ever wanted to do anything like that. But nonetheless, the Museum of the Appalachia has absolutely baffled me. I love this kind of stuff. I love the history of my people and my family. So, remember, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon, you guys. Always means a lot. Goes to show that y'all care and y'all want to see more awesome content. So, without further ado, vlog over.